Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and welcome to another episode of the Crystal Petry Podcast, where we are following the first 100 days of President Trump's presidency. And here to help us figure out and understand what President Trump has been doing this last week or so, we have the president of the Young Democrats of Georgia, Davante Jennings. Hi, Davante. How are you?
Hello, Crystal. How are you doing? I'm doing. I can't complain. I can't
I'm
complain.
good. I'm good. So I'm sure my audience recognizes you. Davante has been on the podcast before, and he is back on to help us navigate. I think that's a good word. Navigate the first 100 days of President Trump's presidency. So let's just hop right into it, Davante. Something that just came out right before we hopped on the podcast this morning was the office of the presidency put out information stating that Elon Musk is not an employee of Doge and not an employee of the White House, that he is just a senior advisor. Now, let's just get some background on this. They came out with this because there's so many lawsuits. I mean, at last
Mhm.
count, I think it was like 70 plus lawsuits against Doge and against Elon Musk for all of the stuff that he is doing, taking down DEI, federal agencies, and different things like that. So, what are your thoughts, Davante, on this um, new game, we'll say,
Mhm.
that perhaps the president and the White House is playing with saying that Elon Musk is not an employee of Doge, he's just a senior advisor?
I think it's exactly how you just explained it. As far as it's a game,
Mhm.
it's a very well thought out plan that he just so happened now to be a senior advisor. When right after the election, it was made very clear that he was going to be working and running all of these entities. Um, I just think it's also one of those things where um, they planned it out very well. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit. They planned it out very well. And I think to call him a senior advisor just one doesn't make sense to me because as one person who I feel like I have considered like senior advisors, mentors, whatever you want, he is definitely way more involved than any senior advisor I've ever seen with any organization. Usually your senior advisor is somebody that you call, text here and there, get some advice from. I've never seen like a senior advisor like day in, day out, working day in, day out on something because they're usually there to just advise you when you ask for advice. So, yeah, it's just it doesn't make sense to me. I think we all can see through it.
Right. So Elon Musk, he said, and President Trump has said that the point of Doge is to get rid of waste. They're calling it the war on waste. Do you think the United States even needs a department like this?
Not an entire department. I know they've tried to throw in these committee meetings before how they'll try to bring up Bill Clinton clips where he's talking about, we need to get rid of waste, and Obama clips where they're like, yeah, we need to get rid of wasteful spending to basically create a whole department dedicated to getting rid of waste sounds wasteful to me. Just because there's so many other things and entities put into place already in the government to check and balance a lot of these systems out to where you don't really need a whole department to get rid of waste. I mean, you are the president at that. Like, you can basically say, anything you want to get rid of, you could, go through certain channels to get rid of it. You don't have to create this facade of a board so that way you can then funnel money to these millionaires and billionaires already to, it's basically just a funneling to me. That's how I kind of see it. I don't think you need a whole department to get rid of waste.
That's definitely something I was going to ask you about, Devontae. So far, and I'm just going to name a few. Of course, there's been several others. Under Doge, they've gotten rid of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. They've gotten or are trying to get rid of the Department of Education. They are auditing the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. They are trying to get rid of FAA, Federal Aviation Association. Don't we need all of these programs? I know we've had them for several years. Don't we need all of these programs? Is my first question to you, Davante. And my second question is, the money that they are claiming that they are saving by getting rid of all of these federal agencies and federal employees, where does that money go now?
Yes, one, we need these agencies. So to basically use these as an excuse and call them wasteful is crazy to me, especially when we got planes falling out the sky. I mean, doesn't seem too wasteful to me. And then two, I think if I had to speculate, I don't know this for sure. If I had to guess where this money's going, it's going to keep funding the quote unquote lavish things that are being done, because you get rid of these departments, you get rid of these entities, but yet you're spending hundreds and thousands and almost millions of dollars just for you to go to a NASCAR event, just for you to put people on a plane to go to this event and that event. Like, that is not that is not, Donald Trump money. That is taxpayer money that gets him around. So for you to say these entities are wasteful, but I'm gonna go spend my motorcade gas mileage on taking laps around a NASCAR and taking my family and friends. And actually, the head person now that's a part of or leading the aviation for them, or supposed to be taking care of their transportation, is hopping on Air Force One with them and going to these events. And we literally again have planes falling out of the sky. And they have, you know, um, the aviation techs who are supposed to, I guess, what they say about with the helicopter incident, that one control person was doing the job of two people. Um, that's just hiring freezes at that. It's just it's a lot going on and a lot of money that's being cut and wasted other places.
Right. And let's just kind of stay on that NASCAR thing. So President Trump has been seen at several high events here lately. Of course, he was at NASCAR. They did the flyover in Air Force One. He did the laps in the Beast, which is his vehicle. He was also seen at the Super Bowl, which was the first time a sitting president had ever been to the Super Bowl. And just recently, he was seen at a golf course with some Buffalo Bills football players. Is this even needed as a president? Is this wasteful spending as what they are trying to get rid of? Or is he just trying to ingratiate himself in different events throughout the United States?
One, you're the president of the United States. You don't have to. I would consider all of that marketing. That's something you would do on a campaign trail. As you're running for president, it would make sense to me why you're at the Super Bowl, why you're hanging out with football players at the golf course. That makes sense. But as a sitting president, you are literally the most powerful human being on the face of the earth at that point. You don't have any more terms after this. Hopefully, we'll wait to see the verdict on that one. But you, you got a job to do. You got After these 4 years, you can go to NASCAR. You can go smoke all the cigars on the golf course with the Buffalo Bill players, who I definitely want to find out who they are, because I kind of was semi hoping they make it to the Super Bowl, but after that, they on the Kansas City list to me. No, don't care. Um, but yeah, like, that's something that makes more sense to me on a campaign trail. As a sitting president, you got a job to do, especially when we're doing so bad, as he loves to say. We're like just in this horrible state. Which, could things be better? Yeah. Are things as bad as they're trying to make it seem? I mean, they're getting there now, but yes, a lot of wasteful. He doesn't need to be there. Doesn't need to do it. You got enough time after your presidency to write all the books and go do all the fun things afterwards. But you got 4 years to lock in right now.
Right, absolutely. Let's talk about, there has been a insurgence of so many protesters now
Mhm.
that are gathering outside of the US Capitol. There's even been protests in local cities about what Elon Musk and Doge and President Trump is now doing. What do you think is their goal with these protests?
If I had to, I think that's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
Because I respect protesters. I think they're needed. They get things done when there's a plan behind it. I think we compare it to the civil rights movement, how they were doing a lot of protests and sit-ins, but there was also plans behind these certain events. So once they did a protest, there was plans and actions and action steps to take after that. Um, so I think it causes attention to like the issue. It brings attention to the issue. I think my question would be, what's next? What do we do after that? What are the steps following that? I think we're very reactive right now. I think we need to be very proactive. Because if we're reactive and protesting after everything he does, we're gonna be burnt out by month 3. I'm gonna let you know, especially how, and that's his plan. His plan is to wear us down. He's because when you look at all these executive orders too, they're all federal based. So he's really just kind of giving control back to the states. A lot of things they do affect us with some of these cuts and some of these government entities that you were talking about. Some of those do hit us, but a lot of these things also still trickle down to local politics, local government, state government. So I'm all for a protest. I will attend a protest. My next question at that protest is going to be like, okay, what's next? What bill are we trying to file? What's the call to action? And these aren't all things I've always been hyper aware to, but the more trainings that I go through, the um, higher I scale up in my career, you get trained on a lot more things, and it starts to get a lot more intentional of like, okay, after the protest, what are we calling people to do? You bring 3,000 people out to like this event. What are you telling 3,000 people to leave this event and go do? Um, so yeah, I say all that to say I'm I don't know. I really don't know.
Right. I think you touched on a huge topic because the protests, while protests are good and they
Mm-hmm.
draw attention to the issue, they draw attention to the problem, but you are correct. What is the next step after that?
Mm-hmm.
What's the next action that, needs to be done? Because if people are protesting after everything that President Trump does or Doge does, eventually the power behind the protest will lessen and lessen until there's no power.
Mm-hmm. 100%. 100%. And that's, I honestly too don't think protests affect them at this point. Affect them as far as how protests used to protest before. People didn't like bad press.
Correct.
The at the governor's mansion up the street here in Georgia, they'll protest across the street, and it's just not a good look for protesters to be outside of the governor's mansion, and you got unhappy constituents. But I genuinely don't think he cares, and I think he understands, if I wear you down, if I get you outside every day, you're eventually going to cave in. I think we need to take a page out of their book. Once they lost in 2020, and they did lose, it was not stolen, it wasn't rigged. It's funny how that conversation of rigged elections evaporates after they win. But they went quiet. They went quiet. They were quiet for 3, almost 4 years, and all of a sudden they came up and smacked us in the face with a 900-page document, plan, ready to go. They were training people to run it for office. They were slowly taking over local offices, local or state elected positions, and that way when they got up to the big boy office, they already had everything in place. So I think right now we need to focus on getting the people we need into these state house seats, uh, state senate seats, congressional seats, city council, commissioner, and be developing a 905-page plan on how we're going to, what we're going to do once we get the office. My opinion.
Yeah, let's stay on that topic, Davante. That's definitely something we were going to discuss. So, Davante, you are the president of the Young Democrats of Georgia, which, of course, I would assume, and I'm sure my listeners would assume, that makes you a Democrat, correct?
100%. True blue through and through.
What must the Democrats do, because they lost, and they lost in grand fashion this last presidential election? And as you've stated, they have lost at the state levels and local levels.
Hmm.
What must be done to elevate the Democratic Party again to a party of esteem and a party that you look up to, and maybe even a party that brought fear to the Republican Party, which I don't think they do anymore?
Yes, I think step one is being honest with ourselves. Um, I think we have to take a look in the mirror and point out what we did wrong. Because there's some things we did wrong. There's some things we have been doing wrong. There's some things and voters that we have taken for granted, which I would love to say I did a whole little media push on, AP, all these other MSNBCs. And I kept saying for the longest time, we've been taking for granted the black vote. We've been taking for granted the Hispanic vote. We've been taking for granted the working class vote. It wasn't ringing any bells. So now we lose, and it's shown we lost. And I don't like when they try to put it on black men, because black men percentages specifically here in Georgia dropped by 1%. There's a whole nother reason we really lost. But I think we need to be real with ourselves on why we lost, and then we need to come up with one concrete messaging, one concrete plan, and we need to stop dividing our tent. I feel like as Democrats, because we cover so many social issues, we break it down on which one should, be held higher than the other. Should we care about black rights over trans rights? Should we care about trans rights over immigration statuses? All of that is human rights. So I'm like, if we make human rights, human and civil rights, our main issue, our main target, that trickles down and hits everybody. So I think we need a man and woman in the mirror and come up with a centralized messaging and I kind of hate to say it now because people are like, we need new messaging, we need new framing. That's true, but it's like, what is that? What does that look like? What does that sound like? I hate to say it, but Donald Trump and his team, whoever came up with the Kamala's for they them, Donald Trump is for you. Yes, it's extremely messed up, but it's like simple. It targets his base and it triggers his base to have something easy that they can just keep repeating, keep repeating, keep repeating, keep repeating till it starts getting ingrained in your head. And we need the same thing.
What would you say Kamala Harris and her team did wrong that caused her to lose that presidency in such a dramatic fashion? And should she run again? Of course, during this election, Biden was, and I'll just give a little context here, Biden was going to run for his second term, Davante. And then towards the end, he decided not to do that because of, as he stated, close friends and family that said, maybe you shouldn't. So now we did not get a primary for the Democrats. They just told us this is who you're voting for with Kamala Harris. And she had, what was it, like 130 days, 132 days, something, I could be off on that number, to campaign for the highest the highest position in the land.
Mm-hmm.
So did the Democratic Party fail her? Did her people in place fail her? Should she run again?
It's easy to say now, like, oh, she shouldn't have ran, and what were they thinking? But I would be a hypocrite to say that, because I definitely drank the juice or drank the Kool-Aid when they announced it was going to be Kamala. But looking back at it now, Monday morning quarterbacking it, I do think she had an uphill battle that she just wasn't going to win. And I know we love to say it's because she's a black woman. That plays a part. That does play a part. I'm not citing that. But her ties to Joe Biden and the messaging that they were already putting on, the messaging and framing they were putting on the Biden administration, the fact that she didn't break away from him. And honestly, I think they should have took the Nancy Pelosi approach, like, do what you got to do to win. So if you got to say, I wasn't that good of a president and I'll be way better as a president, do that to win. She had an uphill battle. I think the biggest thing is that we didn't have a primary. We didn't have a primary with Joe Biden. I mean, even the Republican Party, we all knew it was going to be Donald Trump. All knew it was going to be Donald Trump, and they still put 7, 8, 9 people on their
Correct.
primary stage
Correct.
because it gets across their messaging. That's prime time. Skipping out on a primary, you just take away so much marketing, so much TV time, so much attention that's going to be put on the Democratic Party. And I think that's where the Democrats failed, because I don't think Kamala Harris would have made it out of a primary. She hasn't made it. She didn't make it out of the last primary she ran in for
Correct.
president.
And a lot of people forget that she did
That
run
she
for president.
ran
She ran before, yes.
and didn't make it. She didn't make it out from us. So
Yes.
now we threw her on the stage, and these are the same people who voted in the primary to not have her X amount of years ago. So I think that's where we went wrong. I love Kamala Harris. I think she's very bright. I met her, sweet lady. Kind of gives you auntie vibes. Like it's very
Okay.
like, your Greek life auntie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she should run again though. I think we need a clean house. Honestly, we need a clean house, clean faces, and not clean as like everybody is like corrupt and dirty, but clean as like we need fresh faces. We need
Fresh
all
faces, fresh ideas.
fresh faces, fresh ideas. Nobody over the age of 60. I hate to say it. No one over the age of 60. That's not ageist. I think it's just, you know, things roll over. Time changes, time passes. Um, you know, and I've had 50-year-olds tell me like, well, I don't think it should be anybody over 50. I'm like, yeah, 50 still young. Like
Right.
that's still kind of young. Like, 65, that's when I'm like, okay, you've lived a good life. You've held all the positions you needed to hold. If you didn't get done what you wanted to get done to this point, just pass it on and let somebody else do it now.
Let's pass on the torch to someone
Mm-hmm.
else. Do you feel, Davante, that the higher ups, and not just the Democratic Party, but even, the Independent Party, but the higher ups are doing enough or saying enough to push back against President Trump and what he's doing in the White House? Are they speaking up enough? Are they showing up enough?
I think they're doing the best that they are capable of. I don't think we'll be successful till our Donald Trump pops up. We, as the Democratic Party, need our version of Donald Trump. Somebody loud, somebody that's gonna let you know. I mean, I'm not saying lie like he be lying, because he definitely be trying to say they getting a lot more done than they are. But it's like we're not loud enough. We're not I will hate to say like aggressive enough. So even if we're doing great work, we're not letting the people know we're doing great work. We're not putting it in their face like, hey, look what we just did. Joe Biden did a amazing job. Some people will argue he's the best president we've ever had, but no one would know that because we didn't brag enough. We need to brag some more. We need to pop that a lot more. We need to pop it. You need to let people know what you're doing. Hey, I just saved you X amount of money. Hey, y'all, I just donated, or not donated, I just funded X project and for infrastructure. You got to let people know what we're doing, even if you're doing it and you're fighting well. If you don't let nobody know, perception is reality. So if they perceive you're not doing nothing, you're not doing nothing.
One of the things that Donald Trump campaigned on during when he was campaigning for the 47th president was he would lower prices and lower grocery prices. Have we seen any change in our pocketbooks? Have we seen any change in the grocery stores? Have we seen any change at the gas station? These are all things he campaigned on when he was running for election.
I haven't seen it. I haven't felt it. I think he campaigned on lowering prices. That was his number one objective, and came in swinging on DEI. Like, you know, we knew y'all were gonna take a shot at that, but like that's not what you campaigned on. Um, Everything he's doing right now isn't necessarily what he vocalized. Everything he's doing now was written in Project 2025. But no, I don't. I don't know. Maybe it's different in Texas. Maybe it's different in Texas. I don't know. Stuff's still kind of high in Atlanta though, so I don't know.
It's still high in Texas. Trust me when I say it's still high in Texas. Okay, Davante, as we get ready to wrap up, President Trump has been in office a little bit over or close to a month now.
Mhm.
Has he done anything as a young Democrat of Georgia, as the president of the Young Democrats of Georgia, has he done anything, in your opinion, that has been good for the country, whether that's federal, state, or local?
No.
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
He's very divisive. He's very he's just problematic. I think I talked to a psychiatrist or a
Mhm.
psychologist, one of those people, whoever deals with the brain. And she was like, yeah, he's a malignant narcissist. Yes, I had to go look it up, president or not. I had to go look up what a malignant narcissist was and like what
Explain
traits.
to us what that is.
An extreme narcissist. Like
Okay.
he is like as narcissistic as you can get. That is Donald Trump. I mean, step on anything and anybody to get in his way. People used to look at me crazy when I was like, "Nah, he's not racist. He's just selfish." Like, do I think if a black person, if he had a black person and a white person, and that black person was able to boost him and give him what he needed more than a white person, he stomp on him to go work with him, and as soon as he's done with him, push him to the side and keep going up. So he's just a malignant narcissist who only cares about Donald Trump, only is going to help everybody who funded his campaign. And yeah, we're going to try to survive these 4 years. We will survive these 4 years, and we'll get the get back. We'll get the get back. Don't worry, we'll get it.
Who do you think, and this is purely opinion based,
Mm-hmm.
this question, who do you think Davante should be in the primary for the next presidential election? We've heard whispers of Gavin Newsom. We've heard whispers of Josh Shapiro, which is the governor of Pennsylvania. We've even heard whispers of AOC, Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
Should any of those people make the primaries, or is it someone else that's growing up? Stacey Adams. What about Stacey Adams? She's, from Georgia.
If it's not going to be Michelle Obama, and I think we can convince her to come out of retirement, even though she's like stern on it. And I'm like, Michelle, Madam Obama, you would win. Um, I would love to see. I would love to see a progressive, in the true sense of like an AOC. I know Bernie's wrapped up. I wish Bernie would have made a run at it this past go around. Honestly, um, if you can give me an AOC or a younger Bernie, um, I think we need that back. We need that feel the burn that feel the burn era. Hmm, would they actually win?
That's a great
That,
question. Would they?
that's I think that's the thing. I think they would, honestly, though, because you even saw a shift of a lot of Bernie supporters or people who supported Bernie ended up voting for Donald Trump because he ran on similar things as far
Mhm.
as, and I think that's what confuses me about like the Republican Party sometimes is like you say you hate socialists and stuff like that, but like a lot of stuff you want is like socialist talking points or like socialist points of views. Um, so yeah, AOC or Bernie Sanders type.
I was speaking with someone else on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and she said that Democrats made people like Donald Trump. Do you feel that's true as a Democrat? What do you think?
I don't think Democrats made people like Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump mastered the art of manipulation. I think he mastered the art of he kind of made himself like, I don't want to use the word invincible because no man or woman is invincible, but he kind of like he made it hard to attack him. Like, and I don't really understand how he did it. And people will question why I like watch so much like documentaries on Donald Trump and stuff. I'm like, I'm really trying to understand how he made himself like whatever you say about him, it just bounce off and people don't care. It's kind of cult like. Um, so yeah, I don't think it was more so what Democrats did or didn't do. I think it's more of like what Donald Trump turned himself to become. It's cult-like, man. I can't even explain it. It's very cult-like, and that's a hard thing to beat.
I think as we get ready to wrap up, Davante, it goes back to something you said earlier in the podcast, that when they lost that last election to President Biden, they went dark.
Mhm.
And or at least it seemed like they went dark, but they were planning, they were plotting, they were putting things in place. So when they show themselves again, they would be almost unstoppable. They would be like Teflon, as what you're talking about. Things would just roll off of them and not stick.
Hmm. And we need to do the same thing. Because now I'm pretty sure if people think back on it, like, yeah, you remember the whole insurrection, and after they got that out the way, and kept saying the election fraud thing, like Donald Trump specifically, radio silent. I mean, to the point where people were like, Donald Trump just kind of like went off the face of the earth. I was like, no, he didn't. You think that malignant narcissist is gone? No, no, he's like a roach, man. Like you better stomp and kill him while you can. Metaphorically, I know that.
Correct. Correct. We are
Metaphorically,
not promoting violence on this
yeah.
podcast
Please,
at
God,
all.
please, not at all.
Yes.
Metaphorically, stomp on the roach, or it's gonna come back stronger. It's gonna come back
Mm,
stronger.
right. Okay. I just thought of one more question, Devontae, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
let you go.
No, you're good.
So, Elon Musk and his companies have received several government contracts in the millions and millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, he is a senior advisor, as they came out with today, to Doge and to President Trump. How is it that he is getting and his companies are getting these federal contracts in the millions and millions of dollars, but yet he's also saying we have a war on waste and a war on fraud? Does that not apply to him and his companies?
In his mind, no. But again, it's back what he's good at doing. He's good at lying so hard that you believe, not you, but you lying so hard that people believe it, and he can openly get away with this stuff. So he'll keep saying, "Oh, there's nothing but waste and waste, and we need to cut this and cut that and cut this and cut that." Yeah, it's kind of like doing this with his left hand while he's like doing that with his right. So as long as I keep you distracted over here with this outlandish, DEI this, um, transports that, as long as I keep you over here, like you're really missing a lot of what's going on right here. And these are real serious issues, but
Correct.
they are smart enough to know if we create enough firestorm and enough attention over here, you're not going to be paying attention to what I'm like sliding right here.
Excellent. All right, Mr. Devontae, I can clearly talk to you and have this conversation with you for so long.
I love
But
it.
yes, I am going to let you go. Thank you so much for adding so much value and knowledge to my platform. I appreciate you so much.
No, thank you for the opportunity to be on here and the platform and giving young people a platform. And before you do go, though, people should look up Curtis Yarvin. I think
Okay.
people should look up Curtis Yarvin, Curtis, last name Yarvin. That is the dark one behind all of this. Let you do your own research on
Really?
that one. Yes, that's Vice President Vance's best friend. Y'all go look at him and look what he says, and you'll see where that's the source. That's the source.
Now, that's how you end a podcast with a teaser. That's a teaser. What we call in the industry, that is a teaser, Devontae.
Hey, once they see it, my light bulb was like, wow, I didn't. What they say right there in plain sight. Plain sight.
Right, right. Okay. Well, we will all do as you say. Go and look up Curtis Yarvin. Let me know what you find out. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Let's have this discussion and continue discussing what President Trump has done in his first 100 days. You can get this podcast on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.